Howdy, folks. So I'm back. They just finished their more private-esque meeting, and now they're going to be having the classes. Can I join in on this class? Sweet, sweet. Stand over here. Oops.
Alright, so we're going to kind of stall because our economist is in the men's room right now. So we'll hang out. Just so you all know, my name is DR, and I'm from Occupy University. This radical economics class we run every Sunday at Union Square at 5:30. And Suresh Naidu, who is from the Center for Popular Economics, is our kind of in-house economics guy. He's our answer man. He's our Wikipedia. We also bring in other speakers. Last week we had Mark Brenner, who was a labor activist, also an economist, and he was talking basic inequality. Today, our plan, we figured since everybody's sort of like activists around here, we were assuming that because you all are activists, you kind of have a basic idea of how the economy is kind of messed up, right? Alright? So we thought we'd do something a little more advanced and talk about something fun. Instead of a critique of the system, because we've all been doing that all the time. That's all we do when we read the newspaper, right? Instead of doing a critique of the system, we talk about post-capitalist models. So Suresh is going to present some ideas, fun new ideas. Like, what does the economy look like after we wipe away capitalism? It's an open question. And as we all know, we love to discuss the problems, but we get very uneasy when we talk about solutions. Solutions can sometimes be scary when they're only hypothetical, huh? So, anyway, that's kind of the plan. Anyway, so we're still waiting for Suresh. In Occupy University, we have kind of a structure for how the class runs, which starts with a check-in. We kind of get to know each other really quickly, and then we'll let Suresh kind of present some ideas, and then we'll have a discussion session after that, and we'll take stack just like we do in regular meetings. And there's a couple other formalities we follow. But the important part is that this is a horizontal pedagogy moment. All right, Suresh, like I said before, he's our answer man, but that doesn't mean that he's had some kind of intellectual superiority. He just happens to know more things than we do. Right? So we're going to use him like that. He's a spigot. We can turn him on and we can turn him off if we want. All right, and he's cool with that. All right. That said, it'll be a common courtesy to let him kind of develop his argument, and then we can sort of save questions afterwards. All right. But you are empowered to do whatever. There's no hierarchies in stand. So maybe we're a lot of people. So if we could do a really super quick check-in, get some names, and maybe just like I don't know. We could talk about. What do you think, Alex?
Well, so
name and what?
usually what we do is we just say our name and just how we're feeling in the moment. So, if you want to say about how you feel about what happened, or just, how you feel in general, or just, whatever you feel like saying. I can start. So, everyone, my name is Alex, and I'm really hyped. I'm really excited that the Summer Disobedience School is started and it's going, and it's so many people.
My name's Chelsea, and it's going to be a long, hot summer. Excited about that.
My name's Waylon, and I feel kind of sticky and muggy, but good.
Okay.
Is that Waylon?
Yeah.
My name is Jeremy from Vancouver, Canada. I was involved in Occupy Toronto and heard you guys walking by and was excited. So here I am.
Great. What you got here is considered.
I'm Sherry. My name is Sherry. I'm a construction worker, a union worker. I'm interested in helping all workers mobilize and being interested in our economy and union work empowerment.
My name's Mike. I'm from up in Massachusetts and have
That's Suresh. So right now we're just going around and introducing ourselves. I'm going to keep the camera facing down for the introductions just to protect people's identity if they want to.
Can you guys speak up a little bit, maybe?
Let's say in the kitchen.
Okay.
I'm like being active in Wall Street
Dara, I'm finding it hard to hear everyone, if that's how I'm feeling at the moment. And also, I'm excited to join my treat.
Right, he's standing there with a white t-shirt and a beard and glasses. He's walking away from me. The white t-shirt and the jeans where he's going.
I'm Danny, and I'm celebrating the prosperity of the Later Alliance. I also go to the banking group. One of the things I like that happened today was I was in the city bank group. The guy, the brother with the blue shirt started talking about his stocks. So I got on the phone and said, hey, there's a rumor that there's going to be another reverse split. Oh my God, there may be a run in the bank. And this lady, it says she was an actress, was started going, would you shut up? I'm trying to get over here. And because everybody was on the phone. So I feel really good about the actions we did. We recruited that lady to be an actor. And I'm having a great time. Sir. My name is Paul. Steve. I'm coming here from the West Coast. Wanted to get a taste of the East Coast. Econ minor, so a little background there. But I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more outside of like the usual classic model. OWS photo group. I'm Matt.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm from
Jeremy. Steven. Hi. Glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I was invited by a guest.
I'm Danny. I am a teacher, so this is a very interesting kind of environment to be in. I hope to take good notes and bring that to my classroom. I'm also involved with an OWS affinity group that runs a website called Occupied Story, where we collect first-person experiences with movement. So if any of you feel moved or compelled today to write a first-person story, Occupied Story.
Okay, so now we've all introduced each other. Again, this is Sarah. She's our info faucet. And I'll let you take it from here.
All right, so I got a sense that sort of what this group wanted to hear about was sort of what does the world look like after capitalism? And so I thought I'd start by asking you guys to draw some ideas of what you think a world, would look like that like, and try to give me very quickly like a detail that you think like would be different in a world without capitalism. Like, how would you get your groceries? What would work look like? And so I'll just take like a few comments on like what do you guys when you think about what we're struggling for or something like that, what's like a detail of life you would like to look different?
It seems like shorter supply chains with smaller scale production of things necessary within a city. So like more local, but and selective application of high technology to make that stuff work with the kind of efficiency we come to expect, but without the hierarchical control of. Yeah, let's say we have the
My future world, a bailout would be called welfare, and welfare will equal bailout.
I kind of had a question. Is this an educational amount, or is this the plan next week's education?
Which is education?
This is just a...
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
The other group is down there.
Yeah, I'm going to go there in a second. I guess now that you asked, I think we can see, like, well, we have to, like, transform things. Like, we're going to have malls and stuff. We probably won't be able to have air conditioning there, but we have so much stuff that we can just start reselling old stuff instead of making all the new stuff with the kind of suicidal consumerism of destroying the earth. I guess without corporate capitalism to kind of pressure the government to have stuff like fossil fuels and cars, we see stuff other than cars and more public transit everywhere. Maybe like more people living in stuff that looks like New York City, less suburbs everywhere, because the suburbs are going to have to kind of radically change because we can't sustain them. Okay.
On that note. I think I want to start by saying that one of the pitfalls that people get into when we start talking about economics is that there isn't really an aspect of the conversation that asks the question, how does economics impact the culture? How does the culture impact economics? And like, which way does it go? Does it even go a certain direction? And I think, I think the economy is going to do whatever it can to stay the way it is. I really feel like the change would come from something more based on the way we live our lives on a daily basis. So I also see a world with like just more mutual aid and like removing the cultural assumption that a lot of us, that we all have, that everything is an exchange sometimes. And just getting rid of this idea that it's for cat always. Just like having interactions just for the sake of having it.
Smaller local economies, population redistribution, that we're populated in areas that resources are poor, and small bureaucracies to regulate trade between smaller. Fortunately, I'd like to see no government, but I don't see how that's possible to regulate trade, because there's going to be items that are used in one sector or part of the world that can't
I think these are, honestly, these are the things that like the left has gone to the barricades for like 150 years, or sort of very sort of similar principles: more mutual aid, more cooperation, less of our lives governed by exchange. The things around like more local, less consumerism, that's more recent. That's the environmental movement. I think that's a real deal that we need to deal with is how to both ensure that we're doing things sustainably but still equally, and that's a hard problem that I don't think we know how to solve. You can imagine a society that's figured out how to be really equal and be really solidaristic, but is managing to massively over-extract the environment in the process of doing that. And then you can also imagine a society that's really unequal, but is really good at sustaining the environment. And so these are values that don't necessarily go together, but I think they're values that we want to go together. So that's part of what we need to figure out. Yeah.
I was just thinking, to talk about no capitalism at all. A lot of to find how we see success. Because the way we're living now, it seems like even if you sleep for 1 hour a night, it's kind of a look at anti-capitalism because you're spending 1 less hour making money. So to be able to try to put a new definition on what success or how to live your life, a young lady over here who comes from Mexico, look at a young lady over here who comes from Mexico, when you look at a system that allows for a siesta, or allows for a few hours of time in which you're not doing anything, I think is one example of how we might see a post-capitalist society where we're defining our success not based on whether we're a millionaire, but rather how we do it.
Yeah, so that's other interesting, particularly in anarchists, thinking one of the models for how anarchists thought about what post-capitalism looks like has been informed a lot by the anthropology of like hunter-gatherer societies, right? That's like, and there was a famous book written called like The Original Affluent Society by Marshall Salins in like 1960 that was essentially, hey look, when you look at the Bushmen of Africa, it's like they hunt 2-3 hours a day and then spend the rest chilling and talking. And so there was this idea that you could, and they didn't, and here was the criticism, here was the argument at the time, that as that society grew and as more people got added to it, they'd eventually run into these ecological pressures that would make that system not sustainable as it ran into ecological pressures. And then there was a debate about how actually they managed to keep their population small because they were mobile. So like, and often not, like infanticide was actually relatively common because it was like they needed to keep their numbers of babies low so that they could stay mobile. And so, yeah, I mean, societies aren't perfect. But, so there's a let me just give some background to why this is an important exercise. So, in Marxism in particular, there was this idea that you don't write the menus of the future restaurants. That really the process of political change just changes your imagination about what's possible. And so it's really not possible to sit here now and think about what the world is going to look like. We have no idea really. And that the process of political change is going to change what we think we can do. And so it's just going to, that's going to be its own process. But there is an important thing about when the very possibility of criticizing capitalism means that you think that you could do it better. And so having that idea about how you could do it better is really important just for your own intellectual self-defense. Or like when you're arguing with one of your relatives that's like, well, but what? How are you going to get all this stuff without capitalism? And if you actually have an idea of how you can do that, it just arms you in those Thanksgiving arguments against your relatives. And so, that's why like having these conversations is really important. And it's become really much more important after like both the Soviet Union being really like revealing itself to be A, kind of a crappy place to live, and B, when it collapsed, was that in the 1930s the U.S. left looked really strong because they knew what life beyond capitalism looked like. It looked like the Soviet Union. And it's probably because they didn't have any idea about like the forced famines that were going on in the Soviet Union, but they were looking around and seeing a Great Depression, and then they looked at the Soviet Union that looked like it was just like, that was the future. And so that was like an animating principle for like left activists in the 30s, was like this idea that like, wow, we know how to do it better. We know, and they had that confidence of like, we know what we're going to replace capitalism with. And so we need to get some of that confidence back. And so that's why sort of having this kind of conversation about what the world looks like after capitalism is like good political strategy, even if we can't actually plan the menus of the future. So I'll just offer that as a bit of background. So that said, so ask me questions at any time if you want to take the conversation. There has been like a body of intellectuals that have come out of the 60s in lots of ways that have thought really hard about more practical ways of reorganizing capitalism or going past capitalism that are these sort of templates. And they range from I can start from either describing the reformist ideas that actually have a lot of like radical potential, or I can start with sort of the how could you just radically re-engineer the economy from the ground up that didn't use markets, for example, and that didn't have production organized into businesses. And so there's some really radical views about how to do that, and then there's much more like reformist views on how to get there. So we can start with either of those. I don't know what people want to sort of hear about. Yeah, all right. So some of the things you guys talked about in your sort of visions for what the world looked like were things like less exchange. Well, how about no exchange? So how do you do that? How do you organize like a large-scale, sophisticated economy that can do like an enormous number, like billions of separate tasks, without there being some way of trading that, like, oh, I need a hot dog. I don't want to make the hot dog myself, but I want to be able to exchange. I want to be able to do something else, but be rewarded in hot dogs. So how do you get that kind of that kind of large scale of an economy where some people can do some tasks and other people can do other tasks, and have it still be equal, so that you don't have just some people stuck being janitors and other people being able to be CEOs. So how do you do that? So there's been a proposal that's been floating around for like 20 years or so called participatory economics by like Michael Albert and Robin Hanel up at Z magazine. Guys, some of you might have heard of them. So they've been sort of they've had I think one of the better fleshed out proposals out there for what a post-capitalist economy could look like. And here's essentially how it goes. You organize your neighborhoods into like consumer councils. So you all get together every week and you come together with like a plan for like who wants what in their they're making their budgets sort of collectively. For like we're all gonna get to consume some rent, like I need a toothbrush, I'm gonna make that I'm gonna bring that to my consumption co-op that week and say I need a toothbrush. And then all the businesses are organized in also like cooperative businesses. So all the businesses are democratically run. But and so what happens then, the consumer cooperatives make their like collective budget, and they send that budget to like some collective of planners that then takes those budgets and then also gets plans from all of the businesses for like how much they could produce of a given item. And then they take all these plans from the businesses, they take all these consumer proposals from all these councils, and then they try to come up with a sequence of like prices that would let all of the consumer plans add up to the same amount that's getting produced by all of the consumer co-ops. So the idea is, and then you send out a set of prices, and you tell them, well, here's the prices for the goods that you want, given all the other people that want them, and how much you can actually produce. And then you ask them to make their budgets again. They propose it back, and then a new set of prices is proposed. And essentially, that process is going to come to like a sequence of prices that's no markets, that are not generated by markets, not generated by exchange. They're generated by like a large-scale planning process. But still, everybody who wants, the budgets from all the consumer councils are going to equal all of the stuff that's getting produced by the producer co-ops. And so, in some sense, we'll have that everybody can get what they want, subject to what the economy can produce in a given year. So that's really abstract, so I'll take a lot of questions on that.
How is that functionally different from markets?
So I think what's functionally different is that right now, the prices are set in a decentralized way. So that right now, when who gets to decide what's the price of a coffee? Well, the owner of that cafe is like, well, I need to make a profit, but I need to sell some of these goods, so I'm going to pick the price of a coffee to sort of sell as many as I can while still making a profit. But that decision is made by the owner of the cafe, and not some sort of social process that takes how much people want coffee with how much the economy can produce. Yeah.
Is that similar at all to something like what Red Mill is doing?
What? Sorry?
Red Mill,
I don't know that.
Oh, I guess like some factories have become worker-owned.
Oh yes, yes.
And is that essentially what that is? Is everything becomes that, and then
It's like,
Can you repeat what he said?
so he said it's like Red Mill,
I mean,
but he's saying that it looks like we already have cooperative workplaces today where like the businesses are organized as collectives. And you're asking, does this just look like making the entire economy look like that? And it's yes and no. So yes, in that all of the production will look like cooperatives, but it's also, but right now we have a world in which you have cooperatives, but they set their prices in markets. So they have to like set their prices based on, they set their own prices. But this proposal has it that the prices aren't set in a bunch of co-ops, but at the co-op level, they're set at the sort of society level, subject, taking into account what the co-ops can do, but also taking into account what what consumer collectives want.
I'm just wondering, so what is the scale we're talking about? Are we talking like neighborhood, very local, or are we talking national? And if we're talking local, then how do you integrate that into a larger national economy?
So the idea is that it's supposed to operate at all sorts of scales, that you could do it locally, and that you would essentially treat the capitalist economy as another country. So that you're going to have to buy and sell things with the capitalist economy, but you can do that on your own terms, and you're going to have to, that's going to be a constraint on just in the same way, like, you can't extract an arbitrary amount of, like, uranium from a mine. You have to take that as a constraint of your economy, like how much you can actually physically get from the environment. You can imagine treating the capitalist economy as like just a constraint that you have to work on. If you need something from the capitalist economy, you're just going to have to, the entire society is going to have to make decisions taking what's going on in the capitalist economy as given, unless you've got the entire economy organized under these lines. So, but yeah, that's sort of the idea. Yeah.
In 9 years, I'm going to be eligible for Social Security, where I can retire and go on to my next vocation of poet. How will this affect my retirement?
So the idea is at the consumer council level, you can also choose how much you want to save. And so you can put, so it's a little bit like, so I think this is some part of the proposal that's not fleshed out. So they're very explicit that they think this is a proposal for how the economy should work, but there needs to be also an additional vision of how like the political system works and stuff like that. And you can imagine a world where, yeah, we'll deal with pensions the same way we do with Social Security. It's just like once you turn 65, you're guaranteed a pension. And you can imagine dealing with it that way, or you can imagine dealing with it in some sort of more, we'll let individuals sort of choose how much they want to put towards their retirement. But that decision gets made at the collective consumer council level rather than just at the individual level. One of the important things about participatory economics as it's known is that your wages are not set in the market. So one of the core parts of this is that, so you might wonder how, so I come to my consumer council, how many dollars do I have to spend? Where did that come from? And so they put it down that you essentially, in your workplace, which is democratic, you get effort ratings by your fellow workers, and that those effort ratings are going to be based not on how productive you are, but how much like sacrifice you're making inside the firm. And so, because right now under capitalism, you can be a really low effort worker in a company that happens to make lots of money, and you will, just by holding out a sticky hand, will make lots of money. This is finance in a nutshell, is in my humble opinion. Is essentially, it's not like you have to be like reasonably smart, but better at just like getting close to where there's a lot of money flowing by you, and you just hold out like this honey-coated hand and watch it stick to it. It's I don't know, like Chris Rock put this great line. It's like, yeah, when you work at a chocolate store, you get to take home chocolate. When you work at a bolt store, you get to take home bolts. But when you work in finance, you get to take home money.
Sorry, could you repeat something?
Yeah.
Who would make these effort ratings?
So the people in your democratically controlled workplace would it would be like a democratic process of rating each other.
It would be set by some policy.
It would be set however it's got to be done democratically within the firm, however way that firm is organized. Like you can imagine there's a workplace council that gives everybody their effort rating, and then that translates into how much wages how much consumption they get in their consumer council.
Yeah, the way this is being discussed, it sounds like this is a setting up of an alternative but kind of parallel, economy. But I mean, in kind of like a classical study of how capital operates. I mean, and something that sounds like we all seem to want to have like social mechanisms that can stand up against like the sort of dehumanized brutality of the mechanism itself, right? But so that's why sometimes these things are framed as like a post-capitalist vision, because this idea that it has to destroy itself, right? It's dialectically within. But so how do you defend an alternative parallel economy from the mechanism of the market, or how is that envisioned?
So the arguments they give is like, hey, look, if you can design if you have this alternative economy that's really efficient and fair, why would you'll just naturally attract people that are getting screwed over by capitalism, and that the capitalists will have to be scrambling to find people to work for them, and that you will just if you imagine you have this dual power kind of system where you're like everybody's working in our institutions and nobody wants to work in those other institutions, it'll just hollow itself out.
Right. So it's a totally radical vision of how even post-capitalism.
And you can imagine that if you've got if you're at the so in the 1920s there was Red Vienna. So Vienna at the time was 2 million workers. It was 2 million people, but 500,000 of them were in the trade union, and the trade union ran an entire parallel economy.
Right.
And it had its own co-ops. It's you could basically live and die and just interact in this trade union run economy. And that this was also it meant that the strike was going to paralyze the entire city, because you didn't have to worry about you had your own alternative strike fund essentially coming out of this parallel economy. And so the thing that killed it is, so here's how powerful the trade unions were. They had a city armory where all the guns were stored, and 2 people had the key, the mayor and the leader of the trade union. And then the mayor gave it to the Nazis. But you can imagine that if you're operating at that sort of level, you both have a political alternative economy it's this old, I don't know how many of people are familiar with this dual power as an ideology that sort of sat in the left. It's all power to the Soviets. It sort of goes back a long way, which is that you have an entire enclave of your own parallel political and economic institutions and you're this, and that you are essentially able to challenge the state for its authority over stuff. You're you guys don't run things, we run things. And you have regular people coming to your institutions for jobs, to have their public goods ballot, for healthcare. So it's the things that the government or that the capitalism is offering just doesn't look like it's working at all. And that's one vision, and that's when it's really easy to do a revolution, is when the state's legitimacy is already really weak, because everybody's not looking to the state or capitalism to solve their problems. They're looking to the left,
or the Nazis,
or Hamas. This is also how a lot of the more Islamic movements have organized, is by providing those sort of alternative public services and stuff. It's a long tradition of doing that. So,
I think also one of the reasons, the argument that capitalism would destroy itself from within is because capitalism brings about an increasing divide between the workers and those who get profit. Whereas I guess this system would, that's the one aspect that self-destructive and
Sorry, I think you need to
Okay.
say or repeat it to the crowd, or yeah, say it louder.
I guess maybe also an answer to your question. I think the reason dialectically capitalism is going to destroy itself and lead to all these crashes is because of an increasing divide between workers and those who get profit. And so I guess that aspect of the system would be destroyed by participatory redistribution.
So that would I can talk a lot about the dollar and the monetary system. It would a little bit take us in a different direction. So we can come back if people are really interested in that. We can talk a lot about money. There's a lot to say about money, but it's really important to keep in mind that money is really different from market. That you can have money as like the Soviet Union had money. It was a way of keeping. It was a way of keeping track of how much you had. You could still have money as long as, but without markets, because markets are where the rates are where markets are telling you at what level the terms of exchange are getting set. And so when you have a market economy, the prices are getting set at this decentralized level. And it happens to be that we're also using money to buy and sell stuff. But you can imagine using money to like buy and sell stuff, but where the prices of stuff are set at some sort of national level. And that, I don't know, some people would call that a money, we can argue about whether or not that's a market society or not, but I think as long as the prices are coming from like a central society level process, that looks really different, even if you're still using money. Yeah, and then there's other things about what is money. We'll get into that later. So do people have more questions about this? I mean, there's a lot of like holes in this participatory economics thing that I invite you all to poke holes in it.
Yeah, one thing I immediately, like, after your first sentence, like, again, there's this like assumption between people on the left and people who do organizing that people are actually going to want to come to these like meetings we all go to meetings every week. We all know how fun that is, right? So, like there's an assumption that like the participatory part is like a big assumption of this whole economic system. Like, and I think one of the reasons why people or certain people are so attached to the system as it is, because it allows you to remove yourself from the processes as they are. And yes, they affect you in all these types of ways that are becoming less and less obvious, but you don't necessarily have to, or you can't actually be a part of like the upper echelons that decide things for you. So I don't know what the answer is there.
I think it's just like that is literally one of the like ethical and intellectual like commitments of the left is that it is that. And even if people under capitalism don't want it, that people having political power over their own lives is like a good.
Yeah.
And even if don't want it right now.
Yeah.
And we could be really wrong about that. And that, and it's a claim of like the right, the conservatives, is that actually that most people don't or shouldn't have political power, that it should be like the experts or our natural betters that are making all the decisions. And if they're right, we're screwed. So I think one of the reasons we come to this is because you honestly believe that that's not right. And even if lots of people today think that that's true, that they're wrong. So I think that's not the kind of thing I think it's not possible to have like an argument about like that based in facts.
Right.
It's
Until it actually
it's like
happens.
a primal commitment.
Isn't effort a purely subjective state? Therefore, it leads to all kinds of beliefs.
Sorry, say that louder.
This rating system based on effort.
Yeah.
That's by definition subjective.
Yes.
Therefore, leads itself to all kinds of criticism.
Yep.
So how do you?
It's a criticism of the system is that essentially when you have participatory mechanisms, you either get rule of the charismatic or rule of the busybody. that essentially the people that are really well equipped to function in meetings, either because they're really good at making personal connections or they're like really good at showing up to meetings.
Pass it around.
That those are the people that wind up. I'm not going to say anything about Occupy, but that winds up that as soon as you have that participatory mechanisms are vulnerable to their own kinds of hijacking, and that it becomes then up to us to figure out ways of doing, meetings and participatory mechanisms that make sure that they don't get hijacked like that. And I don't think we know how to do that yet. I think that's a real something we're trying to figure out.
Isn't this what you just talking about experiments in that?
Yes.
How's it going so far?
It has a lot of the same,
the same problems, right? So I think it's yeah. So here's this thing, right? So when you do have these participatory mechanisms, you do wind up with people that are just like friends. Like the natural process of being really good at making friends means that who you go to drinks with is not necessarily the people that's all in the meeting, but then that's where political power lies, is in the cliques of people that manage to have their shit together and like each other enough to hang out outside of meeting time. And so, so I think we need to figure out how to do that better. Yeah.
One of the concerns that I have is the idea of setting prices at a very high level. Even though the volatility of the market is one of the things that we worry about, that on the other side, for a lot of consumers without a lot of buying power, or less well-off people, perceiving arbitrariness of prices of things, especially necessities and issues. A concern of mine in this proposal is that if we have a big meeting and we say, all right, here are the prices for everything, and then when somebody has a crisis in their life, that the prices of their necessities aren't going to be able to adapt.
So I think that's really true, and that's something that it paralyzed the Soviet Union in a lot of ways. It was like this is sort of one of the things that there's this great book that if any of you have time to read fiction, it's called Plenty, and it's sort of a fictionalized account of what the Soviet economy looked like around 1960. And one of the things that happens in this novel is a plant that produces a particular kind of fiber just blows up, and then you watch the entire planning mechanism try to adjust to this plant where there's only 7 of these plants in the entire economy, and it's just it's a total shit show. And it's one of the things that when you have the price, everything has to go back up to the central planning level and then come back down, that reacting to a shortage like that is really hard. And one of the things that arguably capitalism is really good at, when an Intel plant catches on fire in China, the next day prices are higher in Radio Shack. And so it's really fast at adjusting. But that said, one of the responses of the participatory economics thing is that for small scale stuff, you can actually just go to your consumer council and ask the people that are in your consumer council to pitch in and bail you out of a personal thing. And so you've got those sort of community mechanisms in there. But economy-wide shocks are still a bit of our issue. So someone that hasn't voted anything?
I wanted to mention you were fascinating touched on it. What I've learned about I started working with union workers is that capitalism is the world currently in because class workers have control the piece of production, which is I guess what's happening at the grain mill, right?
Yeah. Worker co-ops.
Right. I mean, I know it hardly happens in the United States, but I've read that it happens in South America. So anyway, I mean, within the capitalistic system, I think it's the most realistic chance that people
so two things. I think you said worker co-op. That worker co-ops looks like the most feasible thing in the current system for workers to control the means of production. And the second thing was that the history of workers have power in the United States. How has that worked for us so far? So let's just be realistic. The United States is like a reactionary country compared to every other advanced industrialized country. The U.S. The U.S. has been the place where, like, because of race, because of like the Constitution that was written, it's like this country has been historically really hostile to the labor movement. I mean, you'll even see it like in Canada. I'm Canadian also, but like, you know, the stuff that's going on in Quebec now, for example, like that's unique to like Quebec because of like the infrastructure of the labor movement and stuff that's backing these students. That doesn't even happen in the rest of Canada because the rest of Canada looks more like the U.S. and Quebec looks way more like Europe in terms of its political culture, political energy. So I don't know. I mean, because like one of the things that when the labor movement was really powerful here was when it was not organized into like right now the labor movement is really organized into like industry and sector. So you know these workers organize these kinds of workers. This union organizes these kinds of workers. And so there's also a lot of like fights between unions about which workers are theirs and which workers aren't. And historically, where the labor movement has been the most powerful is under the CIO, which organized industrial workers, and it was like trying to be a cross-sector, and so that you were just like, whatever you work for, whatever sector, you're going to be part of one big union. And so you could do strikes, you could coordinate strike activity across bunches of different, so it's like, this business treats its workers improperly, 10 businesses are faced with a strike. But what happened with that was taken off the table with these 1948 laws like Taft-Hartley and things like that. And since then, it's just been like the only place the labor movement has grown is in the public sector. It's been downhill from there. And so if there's going to be any possibilities for the labor movement, it's going to have to get around either illegally or by getting the law changed. It's going to have to get around these restrictions on solidarity strikes. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's happening, right? You do have these movements of the Excluded Workers Congress. So there's groups of workers that are not allowed to organize under employment law, but that also means that they're not vulnerable to the law around these sort of solidarity strikes. So they're independent of like the labor law as it exists. So if those groups can get sufficiently big to do strikes, they won't be covered under things like Taft-Hartley and stuff like that. So that's some space for energy of like labor organizing outside of the existing labor law and stuff. So that's I think one direction that's the source of political power. Yeah.
I think also the culture of unionism has changed a lot too, and you know, this term like business unionism, where it's just like do it for me kind of unionism, where you as a worker you just kind of like you rely on the union for every aspect that empowers you in the workplace, rather than the union kind of being a catalyst for worker-based.
But there's a real institutional thing to that. It's like in a labor. How many people here have been part of labor unions?
I'm about to be part of it. We have an election.
So, how many of you have shop stewards? You are the shop steward. Okay. So, one of the things that's like really great at what like you can tell when a labor movement is a labor union is working really well is when the shop stewards have lots of like autonomy and like they're sort of your liaison with the labor movement. Then you have sort of like unions like Big Purple, the SEIU and stuff that particularly you know that have replaced a lot of the structure of the steward with like you make a phone call to like a phone bank, and so that's a place where like people don't come to see the labor movement as something that's touching their everyday life. That's the place that they go to for political education. And when you look at labor unions that do have that, they're like the longshoremen, for example, on the West Coast, that not only have really powerful shop stewards, but they've done political education, so that you go to your meetings under the longshore unions, and you have somebody like me sometimes, like they'll bring in professors that work with the labor movement to do like political education work that's partly like building like so that the union membership doesn't see themselves as just like trying to keep their own, but instead see the labor movement as something larger.
Something to be part of.
And but that's not just like a culture thing. There's real practical things that a labor movement can do to get there, and you can put pressure on your unions to start looking more like that and less like say SEIU. I mean, yeah, fine. SEIU is great, not the way it's
Yeah, a comment and a question. First of all, in relation to co-ops, there's actually a great documentary called La Toma, The Takeover. About, it's awesome, about Argentina, where like after Argentina went bankrupt and a lot of factories closed, the workers decided that they weren't going to leave, but that they were going to take over the factories and run them themselves. And they have been ever since, and at this point that's quite a few years.
Or like UE, I mean, in Chicago.
Yeah.
You guys, someone want to tell the story of that?
Basically the same thing. I mean, in 2000, I think it was 2008 or 2000. It was like the year Obama was going to get elected, the year after. This factory, Bank of America didn't want to extend the line of credit for this factory, so the factory was going to close. And I don't know if we could say that the workers took over, but they definitely occupied the factory, kind of demanded that the factory.
Do they keep operating it?
I don't know.
I think the private equity firm has tried to take it over. We've seen it to the workers.
So they gave the firm to the workers, or they
No,
let
they
it
gave it to the workers, but I believe they were taxed, and then they decided to keep it. But I think it eventually also fell into financial crisis.
Yeah, and it happened again. Like the workers went back and they stayed there all over again. And now it's actually a completely different factory.
Yeah. So this is like kind of if you ever argue with that conservative uncle of yours, one of the lines they'll always feed you is that one of the things that capitalism does really well is that when like a business all of a sudden becomes inefficient or nobody wants their products anymore, that capitalism is really good at killing those businesses. And yeah, some workers might suffer, but that's the price you pay for like all the high productivity that you see, is that capitalism is good at killing inefficient businesses and making efficient, like sort of giving companies like Apple tons of money because they sell products that lots and lots of people like. And so a question that I think we need to collectively answer is how do we do that under post-capitalism of like getting businesses that are producing things that nobody wants anymore to like gently go out of business while making sure that the workers in there aren't bearing any of that sort of cost of readjustment.
But also like a lot of when a factory doesn't always close because people don't want its products. Like 2008, a lot of firms went out of business.
Just
we're doing great, right?
Financial stuff, yeah. And let's put it this way: 2008 was not capitalism's finest moment. So yeah, a lot of stuff went bad. But if you think about what is a shining moment, like it's the iPad. It's like that's the kind of thing that they'll hold up and be like, this is why the system is awesome. It's because you have an iPhone. And so, partly the thing is like there's a defense of that says, well, maybe we don't need iPhones and maybe we should take like more leisure time and less iPhones and have a different like lifestyle. Or there's an answer which is like, we can produce better iPhones if it wasn't for capitalism. That in fact we would have rocket cars. But whatever, we did that. In fact, that life after capitalism wouldn't be less cool stuff. It would be more, not necessarily stuff, but like it would be
quality of life, economic quality of life would be higher. And not just because you were like working less, but because like all sorts of things that we actually want are more abundant. More parks, more whatever. Yeah.
Also, too, a lot of things are alternative methods of doing things are put down by the government, by the county. Is a big thing. All these natural resources that we have that are much more efficient, but that will take away money from capitalist businesses, are available to us because they're made illegal or they're downplayed or they're not advertised. So I think we're capable of more than we think we can. When you take away the whole corporate aspect of like killing things that don't have
So let me push back against that and say, do you really think Philip Morris is in there with a pile of hemp, like waiting to sell it, like as soon as it becomes like, that as soon as they like decriminalize marijuana, that there's not like an army of capitalists waiting to make a ton of money off of that? They would enter it in droves, branded.
I would just say there's always different factions of the capitalist class.
Yeah. And that's a great lens to understand lots of U.S. politics. It's not necessarily... Lots of U.S. politics is not about fights between the workers and capitalists. It's fights between different factions of the capitalist class. So if you thought about what's really going on between like the Democrats and the Republicans, very little of it has to do with like, rich versus poor. Most of it like it's about, if you want like special interest capitalists, which are the Republicans, they like oil, and they like very special sectors, and sort of general interest capitalists of like the Democrats are like finance and software, and that these fights are what you see in the political arena are between different groups of capitalists, and that's important to know. I mean, even in 1848, I'll just give you some background. This is like old debates within the left. It's Marx gives a speech on free trade, where he says, we don't really care about free trade right now as an issue of the working class, but this is a fight between the capitalists and the landlords, and right now free trade is going to hurt the landlords, and we hate the landlords more than we hate the capitalists, and so we're in favor. And so he says, yes, like the working class is in favor of free trade in 1848, just because we hate the landlords more than the capitalists. And so he's saying, like, be opportunistic about your fights, your policy position. So like around green technology, let's admit that yes, there's going to be a segment of the capitalist class that's going to benefit from green technology, and that's just true. So you can form an alliance with that group to get something like environmentally friendly innovation going, and then fine, and then you fight them in some other arena. So that's politics. Like you make alliances here, and then you fight each other somewhere else.
My question is, how is capitalism going to advance? Back in like 2000, 2008, when it was plenty of there's no problem in Keynesian economics to help the capitalist system. So how will it advance?
Okay, I'll just say I don't know. I'll give you some ideas. That one sort of classic idea was that you can imagine the following: that essentially people like slowly grow non-capitalist ways of doing the economy. They grow like alternative economies, and gradually that looks really big, and so that the capitalist class has to react either using violence or the state to get their way, and then you have a political fight, and then workers win, blah blah blah, and that's the end of capitalism. Yeah, so that another way is just ecological catastrophe. Because like
You can have the 28 days later version of capitalism failing. It's like zombie war. And that's just apocalyptic. Or you can have a version where actually capitalism becomes so fucking productive and that it's so wealthy that actually it winds up looking like we don't need it anymore. That it's like everyone is like the problem of scarcity is solved, and people are like, you know, it doesn't. It's just like the problem of the economic problem is no longer a problem because we just are so productive and like the economy, we're able to like move into space and spread like Star Trek and just so that we don't have to worry about the problem of who gets what because everybody can have everything. And that's one way that you could. This is like my science fiction brain going off. But so I think we don't. Those are just scenarios for how capitalism is fitting. I think you're right in that also war. But let's not underestimate the fact that capitalism will regularly go to war with different capitalist countries will go to war with each other over capitalist ends. So, yeah. But I agree that right now, given that 2008 looks like capitalism was not threatened by the financial crisis. I mean, I think if you were there in the trenches in 2008, if they had made different decisions, if there had been like less competent people at the Federal Reserve, honestly, it could have been way worse. And so we're lucky, I guess, that that you know it could have been a Great Depression, and you can imagine actually if the Republicans had won in 2008 and they had kept doing what they had been doing, then it would have been a lot worse. And who knows where the political dynamics would be. If you have 20%, 50% unemployment in a society, that's just like all bets are off. That kind of scenario. Yeah.
So I have like two hard problems that I think are hard. And let's assume, well, they're related. So assume that we don't have technological improvement.
Yeah.
And we get into this post-capitalist economy where everybody is cooperating in a good way. So how do you prevent people from over-exploiting the ecosystem? And kind of related, how do you deal with absolute scarcity of essential things like food or fuel or microchips or guns? Like how do you, when there aren't enough of those things, how do you allocate them?
Yeah. So, okay, those are two questions. The first thing is like, I don't think, you know, if people decide collectively that they want to like tear apart the environment for short-term gain, I don't think there's anything we can do about that. If you have democratically and people sort of like democratically and collectively are in this idea that all right, it's not a problem. We're just gonna keep going. You're gonna get Easter Island.
Okay. Can I modify that question a little bit?
Yeah.
What sort of institutions might prevent that?
I think things that sort of make that put the environmental problems in your face, so that you can't just like that you can't separate, that you see the consequences of them immediately in some form, and you can either see it like, yeah, you know, everybody like the trash doesn't go to some dump. It gets put like there, and you have to like somewhere that you have to walk by it on your way to work, and so that it just gets internalized in everybody's decisions that this is a problem that we need to deal with, and so that you can't just have it put in the back of your mind as something that you can't worry about. Yeah.
I went to Ghana last month and there's trash everywhere. Everywhere. Like on the way to work, on the way to everywhere. There's a little dump area. Like I remember the girls really neat and dirty. And I don't think they were thinking about that. I think they were thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner. I think they were thinking what am I going to eat for dinner.
Yeah, no, and it's because I mean, yeah, I think if you you have a garbage worker strike in New York, I imagine what happens. I don't think people are like, fucking garbage workers. Like, but the idea is that when you both have the mechanisms for solving it, like you have some sort of collective process or some sort of process that you can actually affect what's happening, and you see the problem, then something will get done about it. It's because in Ghana and lots of countries, there's nothing you could do about it on your own. There's no mechanism for you to affect anything to deal with it. You have no communication to your politics. So you need to both see the problem. It's essentially, the environmental problem is having the people that get to make decisions think the environment is a problem. And so if you're going to have decisions be made democratically, then you need to make it so that everybody sees that it's a problem. If you have the decisions made in an authoritarian way, you can have just the dictator think that the environment's a problem. So to give an example, Dominican Republic. The forests are in fantastic shape compared to Haiti, for example. The forests, like you can look at the border between the DR and Haiti, and the forests are fantastic in the DR, and they're completely got destroyed in Haiti. Why? Because Trujillo, the dictator in the Dominican Republic, really liked forests. Former dictator. He was like, these are my forests, I own this entire country, they're not going to get deforested. And you had a dictator that was like really environmentally conscious, and he protected the forest. And so, yeah, I'm just saying, like, so he thought it was a problem and he solved it. But because all of the political power was centralized in him, it didn't matter what anybody else thought. It only mattered what he thought. And so, so that's another way of solving the environmental problem, is have like an environmentally friendly dictator. So let me explain what that is, the balance of job complex. So one of the things in participatory economics that they're big on is the idea of a balanced job complex. So that right now your job is basically like, you're pigeonholed into a job based maybe on your education and sometimes just based on what country you're from. And so you have the people, they just wash dishes. And then you have the other people that just get to like write poetry. And that's essentially that's really unfair. that we should have a much more equal distribution of the kinds of work that let you sort of have a fulfilling life, as well as the kind of work that is just like needs to get done because it needs to get done. So we have this, my friends and I, we joke sometimes that after capitalism, we're going to have an abundant amount of like gourmet cuisine. Because like interesting, fun cooking is actually something that people like to do. It's like a fulfilling kind of work. Well, you're gonna have to bust your own dishes and wash them. Because, that's the unfair part of, we have lots of fantastic restaurants, but all the work is like, you have this brilliant chef at the front, and then you have like the back of the house, which is all like immigrant labor that pays very low, and that's not fair. And the idea is that you should reorganize the jobs so that everybody gets to be both part of the brilliant chef and part of the back of the house. And so I'm not sure how that relates to environmental.
If people were involved in the task, for example, there's the resources
I see. Put you actually in a place that you'll see the environmental.
Yeah, and if you actually involved.
That's a good idea.
Everyone gets a chance to mine coal.
Yeah. No, but also everybody gets a chance to see the environmental cost of the coal mining because it's someplace else, or everyone gets to see something about the natural environment that they're actually kind of seeing the damage that they're doing. And, so sorry, you were.
story aspect to the environmental aspect is like it has to come from each individual person and then collectively come together. So, and I think in coming together with each other, you come together with each other. Maybe, I don't know if that.
I see a lot of people wanting to talk. They get tired of like holding their hands up, so I think I'll take a stack so you don't have to worry about it. Your hand was up for a while, so
Yeah.
let me just take a stack and then you can talk. So
No, but I just want to say.
hang on a second. You wanted to talk?
Yeah, but I'll pass.
Okay, there was one more hand over here. No? All right, go ahead. Anybody else wants to talk after this? Just catch my eye and I'll write your name down. Thanks.
I mean, I'm all for equality.
How do we like if you were thinking about focusing on people like underneath the like less than and how do we put equality but like people have like different levels of talent? How do we even that out? Like how do we and not make people feel like it's natural? How do we do that?
Okay, yeah, I think, okay, so if you're a conservative, you just believe some people are talented and some people are condemned to be like the hewers of wood and drawers of water, that like, you just think that some people, they're not going to have any good ideas or anything, they're just, that's what all they're good for is like cleaning dishes. And if you're a conservative, you really, I think, I'm not saying, but so they have an easy answer to that problem of like how do you allocate talent, or how do you deal with differences in talent. If you are like somebody that thinks that that's not true, you either have to do something to like equalize talent, so that in some sense that everybody is good at something, and that you design your economy around the idea of like realizing that different people have different talents and trying to like give them the sphere to realize that. Or you say, screw it, I don't care that different people have different talents. We're going to, that is not, fundamentally not compatible with a democratic economy. And seriously, it's willing to take the economic hit of saying, even if you are the smartest scientist, you're still going to spend 3 days a week shoveling shit, because that's what a fair society demands. And so I think that's neither, I don't know what we think about that. So it's either you have to equalize the talent, or you have to be willing to take the economic consequences of having people with lots of talent doing the same task of people with less talent. And I don't see sort of, I think that's the...
Every there's be some kids they're not that sort of where like say maybe you're a better cook but I'm a better musician.
So that's what I was saying about getting the diversity
like our
sphere,
talents are in a different like areas.
Yeah.
But neither is more valuable than the other.
I think that's the idea of getting the different spheres, so that you have an economy that's organized with enough complexity and enough different areas of economic life, so that no matter what realm you're good in, there's some way for you to realize that. But let's just face it, if you're good at something that not a lot of people want, if like you're really awesome at I don't know, doing something that, what's something that not, juggling is something that's cool to do, have a lot of people. But maybe,
that's entertainment though, that's entertainment.
But like, let's say it's like a low quality entertainment. I'm not saying it is. Let's just pretend that you're mine. If you happen to be talented, or let's say you happen to be talented at something with lots of other people are also talented at, that's really easy to get talented at. So it's not actually really fair. So there's a world in which you have like, you're really talented at like darts, versus you're really talented at like pro basketball. And so the pro dart player.
Consider that a low talent.
Okay, but let's say lots of other people think that that's a high talent. And then how do you, I don't know, I don't think there's an easy answer to this, because there's some, if you have this world where people have different talents, but those talents are valued differently by everybody else, then you're still in this world of like, how do you decide where the high talented people, based on the talents everybody else wants, do? Also, so let's say you have a really talented Filipino chef. Let's say you have like a cuisine that nobody likes. Let's call it English. So you have a really talented English chef versus a really talented Italian chef.
You just lost the English chef.
I just lost the English. I'll take it.
That's a good outreach right there. Whoever's like British right here,
they have a strong enough left there. But versus like the really talented, let's say like Thai chef, that's like a cuisine that everybody likes. So yeah, you have this guy, he's the best English cook, but nobody really likes English food. And so what does he do?
He could learn Italian cuisine, Thai cuisine.
But he's not going to be as good as the best, like, cook, as the best cook there. So I'm just saying, like, these are just like, I don't know.
I'm just thinking alternatives, you know, like you can learn a different way.
But I think at some level, we do have to give in to this idea that fairness requires that we take the hit, and that even if you are the best talented thing at something that everybody likes, you're not going to be able to do that because it's unfair that you should not have to do these other tasks that everybody else has to do. And yeah, that's not the most efficient thing to do, but that's okay. Let's see.
Yeah. Sort of speaking to these two issues, I think there's a really kind of neat, like, it's really kind of a niche, like, thing in restaurants that's happening, but it sort of plays into this, whereas chefs, in some cases, who are tired of the expense of running a restaurant and the issues of health regulations, who have these dinner parties, essentially. And what you do is you sign up to go to this dinner party, and you go to the chef's home, or maybe the home of someone else who's involved, and you might contribute to the prep of the meal. The chef creates a meal, and then you might even help clean up. And the analogy of restaurants sort of made me think of that, and that's kind of a community-supported, similar to like CSA, that kind of thing. And then the other side of it, the idea of taking the economic hit, makes me think of again of hunter-gatherer societies, where in a lot of cases everyone in the culture had basic ability in every area, but they didn't necessarily do it. Like the people who primarily went out and hunted for meat, they could make baskets. They would interview a guy who was mostly a hunter. He'd say, well, if I had to make a basket, I could make a basket. But these people mostly make the baskets. There's sort of that idea of like, everyone has that basic ability, and they may or may not use it depending on the situation.
Alright, so next one, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
And then Paul. I'm sorry, you're not Paul. That's right.
I said my
name. You got a list, it's kind of
I guess so. One problem I have, and I think that what we have, with this kind of this concern of making sure that that everyone's doing something that benefits what everyone else wants at the time, is that it gets back to the same problem we have about how do you encourage innovation, and how do you encourage kind of exciting new products without a profit motive, and it was something we kind of moved away from a bit earlier, but I think it's so often asked by the conservative uncle.
So one answer to that is that actually, when you look at actually where a lot of like serious like science innovation happens, it's not in markets, it's not in companies, it's by people in institutions like the academy. And let me tell you, I work an enormous amount doing research, and it's not at all motivated by money, it's motivated by like prestige. And then I think that's what motivates scientists to actually do the work. And you look at open source software as a great example of that. It's like that people are not doing it for the money, they're doing it because like there's like this reputation score, or like it's like somewhere, some part of you thinks that you're going to be really popular if you do this thing really well. And everybody will want to be your friend. And so, the Soviet Union had this thing where they were like innovators, and they had a lot of innovation with a flash. That's it. It's a flash. Thanks. Yeah, so no stock options. like, here's your plaque. And that worked. It's like, because the reason that they were coming up with new ideas wasn't necessarily for the stock options. It was for it's because when you look at, like, I think intellectual work is the kind of thing that's like, it's hard to motivate with money. It's easier to, it's even people that do it for the money, what they're projecting onto the money is the stuff about prestige and sort of getting seen and being known and stuff. So they want recognition, not cash. I mean, we can talk about recognition also being unequally distributed, and that's unfair also. But yeah, whatever. That's
Well, I think why don't we just recognize people like everybody? If you're a great student, whatever he does. But instead of making it like one more important than the other, like everything would be.
That would be great. I think humans are also like, even in hunter-gatherer context, they're really good at coming up with arbitrary markers of status.
Yeah, but that's so we can evolve to be
I hope so.
a better society.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm a little bit like, here's the thing, it's really easy to say, I think we said this earlier, if we could change what people were, this would be actually a really easy problem. We could just ask people to be nice, and be like solidaristic and like operate in like the social interest all the time, and then the problem of organizing might not even really be a problem. It would just be like, hey, people would do the right thing always. So this is why, while I would like that, and I hope that would work, I'm kind of, in some ways it's also a more interesting problem, is like, how could you take people that are not too different from the people that we currently are, and organize a better society given the gruff ways of like selfish, imperfect people that we've got now, that are like kind of filled with envy and spite and like, you know, so you know,
Want to get on the next? I just kind of what was I just think like instead of like what is by their own selfish reasons, like, well, if we help each other, we'd actually just accomplish more together rather than like, you know, by ourselves where we accomplish a little bit, but if we both work on something together instead of competing with each other, we could like both get something a lot more out of it.
So I have a great example of that.
I've been waiting.
You've been waiting. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say before I forget, because I can't remember much. So, you know, I just think I've heard a lot of good stuff, and I think idealistically, I've heard a lot of really good stuff as far as alternative economies, or you know. But I think that as it stands right now in this country, the way it's going now, I mean, we're talking about people's talents in the workforce. I really believe that there needs to be a supply of jobs to meet talent of the workforce. Without that, we could have all the talents in the world, but there's no job to go to that will pay us for our talent. It doesn't matter what. I mean, I do a lot of great things. Nobody's really willing. Even if I put ads on Craigslist or whatever, something like that, I'll get a job. There's really no demand for the talent I might have. So as far as being fair, I mean,
that's a moot point under capitalism, because there's not even jobs.
Well, yeah, I know today, I know as far as blue collar workers, there's a lot of guys. I'm a blue collar guy, and there's a lack of jobs, and there's talented people out there, and I know a lot of people graduating school, and they're getting out of school, and there's no jobs. There's people coming home. There's soldiers coming home from these unjust and illegal wars right now, and they can't get jobs. You know what I mean? So where do we look at the problem? Do we look at these ideals? Is that like a realistic way to look at things, or do we have to really address the root cause of problems that we're facing?
So when I started this, I said we start at the radical end or like the reformist end. So let me take that and just give some ideas for like do in the here and now. And the real sort of like one of the sort of real evils of capitalism is like what was called the reserve army.
Sorry, I'm getting a chair.
Find jobs, and that you need that capitalism needs that in order to get even people that do have jobs to do work, and that threat to be fired needs to be a threat to get you to do work. And that's the whip that uses capitalism right about employment. And so when you think about what could be done on one end, the here and now, it's taking that whip off the table by
Having more jobs.
Having more jobs, or making it really like easy to be unemployed, like massively. And so one of the proposals that I'm sort of partial to, I'll take either one. I'll take either like a national jobs program. I would also take a more radical program, unconditional basic income grant. So this is this idea that's further just like citizens' income that, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be enough to like, live cheaply. But the idea is that you get it unconditionally. And if you want to make more than that, you're welcome to. But if you don't want to, you at least have something to live on. And if you really decide that your life is more valuable as a surfer, and then you at least have some of the means to make that possible. And then what that changes is then you don't have the terms like under which you can approach the labor market are totally different. You could be like, I don't have to take a shit job. And so that means the quality of the jobs you do take will be so much better because you have this outside option of just like a check that's coming. And this came very close in Belgium. Like other countries have been very talking about this for some time. The U.S. came very close to passing it in 1968, actually. And you know who voted against it? They came within one vote passing in the Senate. And Ted Kennedy voted against it. Because here's the proposal as it stood, was like replace all of the existing welfare programs with a single basic income grant that everybody got regardless of whether or not they were poor. And this would have lowered the amount going to poor people, so which is why Democrats voted against it. When you look back now, it's like all of that other stuff that was just for poor people, that's all been gotten rid of, so we have nothing left. And the nice thing about the basic income grant, same thing with the full employment thing, is that you can't get rid of it. Because once everybody feels like they have a stake in it, and everyone's getting a check, you try getting an American person to vote for any politician that says get rid of that check, political suicide. So the other place that has this is Alaska. So Alaska pays out the oil revenues every year to every Alaskan. And so they got this oil drive. It's the oil drive and the Gulf states. And so you can do something like that at the national level.
At the expense of the environment, of course.
Yeah. So I think on the edge of the reformist thing, it's like two ways of going after taking this reserve army of the unemployed and making it not unemployed.
Well, and it's funny you use the word army.
Because a lot of them are from the army.
They didn't want people too embedded in working and stuff. Because then they're easier to draft them. That's probably what happened.
I mean, the military was one way of doing this. Like soaking up extra labor. Did we break it up for the rain?
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to say a couple of things. We have two of them on staff here, namely myself. Matt, Jesse, Paul, and Mike. Mike, right? Yeah. Okay. And I also want to so that's the stack. I guess we should close it up. That's somebody else wants to get on. No? All right, so one quick announcement. This is not the last meeting. We're scheduled to talk on the 9th. June 9th will be here. With Mark Brenner, who's a labor guy. We'll talk about labor situations. There is a rumor that maybe we could be here next week, but that's still in construction side. But we'll definitely be here on the 9th. Right? So let's finish up. We've actually answered my question. I can talk to this guy. And next on stack is Matt.
Mine's actually kind of more open-ended, just more from nothing. I was actually going to take it out of here. A lot of current development goes on in current capitalism. It's actually outside capitalism, like investment clubs or government grants run into hard science and that research applies and then how would you see kind of organizing for that in a way that doesn't include progress or like you were talking about the about how living together
it's like it's just really not fair that somebody is due to the life circumstances that they have based on where they're born. It's just like it's absurd. And so I realize this is hard for a lot of, particularly like Americans that are born here, that sort of like, particularly at the low, like that are unemployed and stuff, and they feel like immigrants are taking their jobs. And that's a hard conversation to have, but I think we need to have it. And you could imagine tying an open border with like global labor rights in a way that sort of raises the floor in developing countries, so that even if you did have open borders, maybe people wouldn't want to come because of the labor market there, where you can get it out. Okay, so I'll ask you another question. I'm guessing, but I'm good.
I put you on the list because I thought you wanted to talk earlier. That's right.
Yeah, I have a question. As far as like how would that affect education, meaning in the way of types of subjects? It'd be like a skill sets in particular areas. Everyone would want to be like artists and musicians and stuff, and shy away from more of these physical works.
So one way you can think of it is that in a world where education is sort of, so basically you can imagine distinguishing education that you want to do because you love it and education that you want to do because of the job. And in this idea is that education that you want to do because of the job gets paid for by the job. And so you can imagine, well, education you want to do because you like it, you pay for it. And so you can imagine that like what you'll have is that people, so society needs doctors, so people that go to medical school will get paid for. Well, people that who want to do art, if there's not as much of a social demand for art, they're going to have to like bear the cost of that themselves. Which is really how it kind of, sometimes should be, that people shouldn't be taking their own debt to like go into being a doctor and stuff. It should be like, no, we have slots for doctors. They're just there. We want people to do them, and we're going to fill them, but it's not going to be paid for out of your pocket, and so that you're going to have to take that debt and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I'm not really talking about like the funding of it, but I'm talking more about
the choices.
The choices of it. Because if it's like more of a bartering type of thing,
well, it's like
why go through a doctorate program, right?
Because society will pay for it. And so it's like, and so that you can imagine if you could do something else that pays less, and that doctor really, so the idea is that if you're in schooling for a doctor, it's like considered part of work. So you get like an effort rating, and you would get a compensation package based on that. While if you were doing education for your own sort of personal benefit, that wouldn't get counted towards your wage. And so, that the education that gets done because of work, that gets paid. You might hate it, but you'll at least get paid for it. So it's less the funding, it's more like, it's like you want people to like sort into taking different kinds of education based on how much society needs it. So society should pay for the kinds of education that it thinks it needs.
Hey guys, this is just like sharing experience that's tangentially related. One of the hard problems you brought up is that people are selfish and jealous, and then not all the time, but this isn't a statement on human nature as a whole. But one of the problems that we run into is that people want what they want, people are envious, people are jealous. And I'm going to share a little bit of, this is related to polyamory. And I am familiar with that community, and it's a very distinct cultural shift when you switch from a mindset of affection or touch or whatever it is that you get from your partnerships. When you switch from a mindset of that being a scarce thing that you have to fight for and compete for, and you flip that into it being something that is abundant and that you have a supply of to give, it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to switch mindsets from one to the other if you have a community that supports you. And maybe that doesn't apply to like food or aluminum or microchips. But as soon as scarcity stops being a problem, we can get out of that mindset. It's possible to actually make happen.
Alright, well that's it. So,
Cool.
Thanks for dropping in, everybody. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, also one more reminder, we do this at 5:30 on Sunday, we're also going to be in Union Square tomorrow, we're always in Union Square at 5:30. We've been doing that forever, so come. Check it out.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching, guys. This has been Occupy Wall Street Summer Disobedience School, first session. I'll be back next week on Saturday. It'll be noon to 5. Again, my name is Waylon Lank. This is lank.tv. My Twitter handle is @WaylonLank, @WaylonLenk. I'll tweet out before and when I start streaming. If you'd like to support this stream, go to the website www.lenk.tv and push the We Pay button. Help me out. I'll be here anyways, though, as much as I can. Thanks for watching.